Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me. Hey ladies and legacy builders, welcome back to Tasha Mind Your Money. I hope you are having a beautiful Sunday thus far. I am going to be checking in on the budget for week 3, so the 12th of October through the 18th of October. I'm going to start with my calendar. I'm going to close out the third budget by paycheck for the month of October, and then I'm going to go ahead and jump right into tracking expenses for the third week and see where we ended off. Mommy. Hi, baby. I am a wife and a mother of 4 children. I am filming while my children are present, so you might hear their little voices, you might see some jump cuts, but that's all because I'm doing this. I'm sharing our real journey with you. I'm here to share my budget with you and share our progress one small step at a time. I totally botched that intro, but here we go. So this book that I'm using is my 12-month simple budget planner that's available on Amazon. For this Sunday reset, we're going to look at the bills that I paid this week. I did pay our Spectrum bill that came out automatically. The gas bill. So I entered into a repayment agreement because the bill was way too high. Started off at $640. I couldn't pay that in full, so they added a late fee. And then on top of that, the charges were still really high because the boiler was still on very high, and then I couldn't control the heat in this apartment. And it turns out that the little box that controls the heat, I forgot what it's called, but I'll try to put it on the screen, that wasn't working either. So an electrician had to come out, replace that box, and then a second electrician had to come out to help that person to make sure the boiler was actually connecting and it could work. But in between end of May and we're in October now, that bill was still going up again. So there was like another $300, then another $400 added. It became so much. So I thought, because I paid $100 in the first week of October, I would just have to pay $103.58 to complete the entrance into that agreement, and I still had to pay $203.58, which I was not expecting. But to God be the glory, because all things work together for our good, because He loves us and He called us according to His purpose, and we love Him. So I still had to pay the $203.58. There's a little mean face there because I was really angry about it. Then I told you guys last week we had a credit card payment that was coming out. So this was to pay down the household credit card that still has quite a bit of a balance on it, $369. If I didn't have to pay that, this wouldn't have been so difficult. But that happened, and I had to borrow money from our mortgage account to cover this because there wasn't enough in the bills account to cover it. So that happened. Our cell phone bill did get paid, so that did come from the cushion in our joint account, so it didn't hit our bills account because it was the way we have to pay this. We have to use an actual debit card, and we can't use the checking account information. So that's what happened this week. Those are the bills that were paid, and we're gonna see what we're gonna project for October 24th paycheck. So that's paycheck number 4 for the month. It's our golden month, right? So we're gonna have a 5th paycheck, and so I'm grateful to God for that. I did update my monthly budget. Electric was paid, Spectrum was paid, Metro PCS was paid. Other bills we're paying them weekly, but we haven't paid them in full yet, so I'll update that at the end of the month. All right, I have receipts for what we spent this week. The receipts are split between what we spent out of our household category, out of our car gas category, and for food, which includes groceries and eating out, all the food that we need to eat. So we spent $154.72 on food. We spent, is this household or food? This is food. $44.83 on food, and that was a total of $199.55. I did not update the Great Lock-In. I have to do that maybe on Tuesday and catch up with where we are, but that's how much we spent on groceries. So I'll fill that in really quick. $199.55, 45 cents under budget. Woohoo! For household, we spent $14.44. So let me fill that in, $14.44. And then for car gas, we spent $36.26. So 36.26, which means we were under budget in those three categories. Isn't that wonderful? All right, so let's get into what happened. We budgeted for $1,400, and the actual, we had $20 come in from Ibotta. I transferred that over from the app. $11.49 was one income, $170.66 for a second income, and then $59.35 we pulled that from a check we received in the mail. So we didn't use the whole check, we just used a portion so we could get to $1,400. So what I'm thinking is, if we can just at least work with $1,400 a week, we can take care of all the things we need to take care of, including our variables, which is the budget buster most times, because the bills are high, but they're not going to be forever. But the variables is where it gets a little tricky. So I've been definitely trying to stay locked in and focus on staying under our grocery budget, not putting too much gas in the car, or not wasting too much gas, right? Being responsible with how we're driving and where we're going. And then trying to stay under for a household by using certain apps and things that helps reduce the cost of items, couponing when you can, so that we can reduce our variables, because that is really the only place that we can kind of cut back a little bit or scale back, so that we can do the other things that our budget really needs to do. So moving on, I talked a lot, but top priority is Psalm 27:14. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. I hope that encourages you to wait on the Lord. The Lord needs to be the center of everything, not just your health and not just your finances, but everything. Everything. I'm putting it all on him. Everything. All right, so tithe was $140 because we did use $140. The gift that I sent was $50. I put aside the $50. I don't think I spent the entire $50 because a portion of the gift that I sent to someone, I bought something for that person, and so that the item that I bought actually cost me less than what I expected because I had a gift card attached to when I got it shipped. But I still have the rest of that money sitting in the account. So $190 is the total for giving, and I'll figure out how to get the rest of that money to that person. Okay, so $190 for savings. I'm not savings, y'all, giving, and that's going to be $1,400 minus $190. So we're at $1,210. I hope you can see that. And then for savings, the emergency fund did get $40. I had to do that. So we gave that $40, and then the balance forward did get $18. Right? This is a new account that I created so that we could have money to roll back into the budget whenever we might need to. So our savings was still $58 for the third week. And that leaves us with $11.52. I did transfer $20 to the brokerage to do some investing. I invested a little bit into Costco because Costco I noticed was down this week. And so I just put a little bit there to increase our position over there. So now we're at $11.32. I did pull out $50 in cash. $30 went to the laundry card. That's our household binder. $20 went to $5 Mondays for Tasha's money and stuff. Yes. Mommy. So that's $10.82. Mommy. Yes. So $50 in cash, and then we have bills and expenses. The car loan. All right, we did two things. I'm not going to write a separate line item for this. I thought I was, but let me explain what I'm saying. That the car loan usually gets $120 transferred to it, right? So we can make the regular weekly payment, and then ahead of the next payment, we can make a principal only payment. But I challenged myself to add an extra $10 to this in the past week. So the extra principal only payment was $10, bringing our car loan transfer to $130. So we'll subtract that right now. And then the bills account, I had to repay the bills account $20 that I took from it earlier in the week to take care of a slight emergency. And then we paid one bill, and then I transferred a total of $260. That's basically what I'm saying. $260 went into the bills account. Okay, and then the mortgage account did get $420. So let me take the $260 and then the $420. So now we have 272 left, right? So, oh, did I subtract this? I don't think I did. Let me see. 199.55 was what we spent on groceries. 36.26 is what we spent on car gas. 14.44 is what we paid towards household. So $21.75 left is not what I have here, because our cushion got $22.05. So my numbers are off, and I'm not sure why my numbers are off. Let me just double check something really quick. See, 14.14, that's what I put, and that was wrong. It was 14.44. So 21.75 is our cushion. That's why my numbers were looking so awkward. So this total for bills and expenses is 130 plus 260 plus 420 plus 199.55 plus 36.26 plus 21.75 plus 14.44 is $1,082. 1,082 plus 50 plus 20 plus 58 plus 190 equals 1,400. That's our zero-based budget. So the actual is exactly what we planned. And I made it that way because I said, God, we need to have at least this amount. We're going to try our best to work with this, and unless the Lord says do something else, because he's leading this whole thing. So the income was 20 from Ibotta, 1149.99 from W-2 income, 170.66 from extra income, and 59.35 from a random check that we got. That's how we got to the 1,400. The rest of that stayed in our account. We did some spending, and we're going to talk about that just now. Let's do the tracking real quick so we can move on with this week. So remember, we started the month in our joint main account with $67.74. That's just how we started the month of October. We already went through week 1. So let's look at week 2. No, we went through week 2. So we're going through week 3. What am I talking about? Okay. So I didn't fill out the balance for everything, right? So we're just going to try to go through this line by line quickly to just give a recap of what we did, and then we'll talk about the balance at the end. So on the 15th, we had that deposit come in that I talked about. We had a second deposit. Then our gas came out. I totaled up everything we spent for food, for household, the car loan, the extra car loan, and then some more income. And then we had this income that was like random, unexpected. We Zelled $124 to the bills account, right? We paid back $20 that we took from it, and then an extra $100 to cover the gas bill that I had to pay, the gas utility. We transferred money to a different account, so $820 was removed from this account. We sent $40 to the emergency fund. We had some unbudgeted spending totaling $28.66. I had to write that down here. So $28.66 for unbudgeted spending. We had to refill our Easy Pass, and so that was $40.05. We paid the cell phone bill. That was $83, and that left our balance at $216.22. But then we had some more unbudgeted spending. So we spent $17.41, and then that left our balance at $198.81. So one of the things I want to try to minimize right now is the unbudgeted spending. It wasn't terrible. Like, I don't think this is not a whole lot, but like thinking this could have been an extra debt payment, right, towards the car loan. Maybe through the month of November, that's almost $30. That's 3 weeks of extra, a $10 extra principal only payment. That could make a difference. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Like, is there a way for us to stop these little holes, right? And I'm asking the Lord. The Lord's going to help. So that's where we ended. Our balance in the joint main account, $198.81, rolling over into week 3. I need a ruler. Use one of the kids' rulers because I can't seem to find mine. How we ended week 3. Ooh, it's not going to be perfect. Maybe I didn't need the ruler. Maybe that was just extra. I'm just being extra. Okay. And that's not the neatest, but week 3 from 10/12 to 10/18, we ended with 198.81. And then we have our operating account. So the operating account, we started the month with a 16-cent balance. Okay, we went through weeks 2, and I use this whole page. So we went through week 2 last week, and we started with, did we end? So we ended with $20. Yeah, throw that in the garbage. Throw it in the garbage. So we ended with $20, and our first purchase was an unbudgeted expense at CVS, but I did need to purchase diapers. It wasn't budgeted for because I didn't realize that the extra stash I had was gone already. That was on me. So I spent $19.73. We ended with 27 cents on that day. On the 16th, we had an inflow of $964. $260 went to our bills account, $140 went to the tithe account, $18 went to the balance forward account, $420 went to the mortgage account, and I bought a gift from Amazon. That was the giving I wanted to do, and that was $34. 50 minus 34 means I have $16 remaining to give. Robinhood came out, that investment, in $20, and we had an account transfer in of $2, and that brought us up to $10.32. So some of the money, they're in different places in different accounts. So that $16, I have to figure out how to get that to the person. But that's how we ended week 3 in our operating account. So that's it. We ended with $10.32. And then in the bills account, what happened this past week was Spectrum did come out. We talked about that. We had $20 come out. I needed to, that's the money I took from here that I had to repay. 86 cents came into the account. Our life insurance was paid for, one of the life insurance policies was paid for $32.50. We had an inflow of $580. Some of that came from the mortgage account because, again, credit card payment had to come out for $369, and then the gas heat payment for $203.58. Whew. So that left us with a positive balance of $21.06. Now, all in all, starting week 3, let me see, we have $21.06 in our bills account. We have $10.32 in our operating account, and we have $198, I think. $198.81 in our joint account, $198.81. So we're starting week 3 with $230.19. We'll figure out what we're gonna do. So all of the tracking is done. I'm gonna go ahead and project a budget for 10/24 right now. Let's go ahead and do that. Matthew 13:31. I've been in Matthew for the past couple of days, and I'm hoping for an even bigger revelation into this part here, where Jesus was talking about the kingdom of God and how he likened it to a mustard seed, a small seed but mighty, because when it's planted, it grows like humongously. So I'm really like going in with this, so I use that as my top priority reminder. So we're gonna move through this quickly, this part, because I don't think I have a lot to talk about, but you know, we have a few things that we have to do with this income that we're gonna budget for. We have to pay back the mortgage account for the $369 we borrowed from it. I have to cover our Geico because I couldn't pay Geico in week 3 because we had to pay the gas bill. So I have to put extra money into the bills account to cover for all the rest of the things we have to do for the last 2 weeks of this month. So what we're going to do, we're still going to give. We are not going to disobey the Lord, and we trust him. And he is the center of everything. Like, we're making plans, we're doing all these things, we're working hard, but he's the one that gives the increase, so we're trusting him. So we're going to give a tithe of $140, and that will be the total of our giving bucket. $1,400 is what we're planning to budget with, and we'll do a zero-based budget as always because every dollar has to go somewhere. Savings, no, we would save for the emergency fund if we could, but we don't have a plan for that this week. I want to put money in our balance forward account, but we can't do that right now as we're based on what we see. But God could shift things up, but we're not planning anything. Investing, we're not doing that either. I would have put money towards our Robinhood brokerage, but we're not planning for that this week. For cash, we still have to take out cash. So we have our household binder that has our laundry envelope inside. We need to put $30 in that to do laundry. $5 Mondays, we're still doing that, and that's $20. So in total, $50 for cash that we need to pull out. And then bills and expenses. So nothing for purpose funds. We'll just move forward. Bills and expenses would be the car loan. I'm just going to send $120 this week. I don't know if I'll be able to send an extra $10. We'll see what the Lord does. Bills account. The bills account would get $359. And then the mortgage account, to repay what we took and to, make sure we still put towards next month's mortgage, $740. And that's a big jump from the $420 that we should have been putting each week, but we have to pay ourselves back. Car gas, I'm budgeting $40. I think it might be less than that, but $40 is where we top off. Food, this is where we had to cut so we could make room for the extra money going to bills and mortgage. So we're going to budget $150. What I'm hoping to do is to just buy one protein this week, buy some fruits, buy green veggies, buy 2 snacks for the children to accompany their lunches and to have at home, and buy milk and cheese. So like just those standard things. Hopefully we can fit that within $150. So 1 protein, fruits, green veggies, 2 snacks, milk and cheese. Let's add this up. 120 plus 359 plus 740 plus 40 plus 150. That's $1,409 for bills and expenses. If we add that to cash total, giving total, we are over budget. So the total income that we're planning with is a normal $1,400, but our expenses are $1,599. So our shortfall is $199. So we need to find a way. We need to see what God is going to do. $199 shortfall. Budget, projection, forecast. So we're not saying that God is not good. We're not saying that he can't do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we ask or think. When we create a budget where we know there's a shortfall, what we're doing here is we're saying, God, we trust you no matter what it looks like to us, because you're carrying us through situations, you're carrying us through this life, and you want us to fully trust on you. You want us to fully lean into you. You don't want us leaning on our own understanding. You don't want us focusing on ourselves so much that we forget the God who created us. So when I'm sharing my budget, I just want this to be known to everybody, all the ladies, all the people who are watching, whether you're a subscriber, a viewer, or you're connected to, to the channel. We trust God and all of everything in our lives, the lives of our children, the lives for ministry, for work, for business, for budgeting, for grocery shop, everything. Every single thing is in the Lord's hands. What we buy, what we do, what we say, what we don't say, we put it all on the Lord. So that's my trust in the Lord and wait for him. And hopefully you found something enjoyable or encouraging about this video, that you would like it. Okay, comment down below. What motivates you the most when it comes to creating a budget? Like, what's the focus for you when you look at how am I going to allocate this money? I know that a lot of us are going through debt repayment, and it's difficult, it's challenging. We go through so many emotions. But is there one thing I know it's kind of a deep question for a Sunday, but I want us to think about this. What is the motivation to keep doing it? And I hope God is in the center of it. So I like doing this because I feel like when I write this down, it helps my brain to remember what's most important, which is why I write down all the numbers. I write a top priority. And it's also why I write goals and things like that, because it helps me to stay focused so I don't lose sight of what's important. Remember to mind your money, manage it well, and live your lives abundantly. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye for now.
Bye-bye, friends.
Say bye, bye, friends.
Bye, friends.